to turn it.
Yeah, turn it. Okay. Looks pretty good. You're gonna have to lean in when you participate. We call them. Okay, not bad. So turn off the AI companion. Are you logged in? Okay, so let's try it again. Trying to set this up in the room. Now, what we should be able to see, Suhas, is the room as a sidebar, but also Ashwini and David as they log in. Sorry. Right, Suhas sent you the Zoom details on Slack.
Sorry.
I also sent a direct calendar. invite
SJC.
to David.
SJC.
Yeah.
Says.
SJC. Sustainable City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what I meant to say.
You don't see
Just
on
How do you
community
participate?
education, you sent a direct message to
Yeah, on Slack.
Ash and David.
Yeah,
to
separately.
them individually,
Individually,
so not on the community education.
not the
chat.
committee.
Okay. I will not roll David. Yeah. There's Ash. Hey folks, how are you?
Is that a serious?
They're telling.
Figure it out, I guess.
RT high. Randy. So Sustainable Jersey City is hosting this evening. Thanks for coming. Hi. Abe, Deborah, hi.
Nice to meet you.
So there's some minutes, there's some water. I imagine everybody's library or on SJC's event. Right.
Yes. I find it
Okay,
was.
Deborah, just checking that my audio is okay. You can hear me.
very, very loud, yes. So and can you see everybody in the room, Ash?
I think so. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, arm of a sixth, and you. There we go.
David, make sure that he has the link. We sent it to both of.
So the gentleman that just stretched his arm out, if you could move a little bit towards Deborah, I'll be able to see you clearly. I just see your arm. Whoever's next to the,
Oh,
yeah, right there, right there.
That's Randy. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll introduce everyone.
What's your tap turn? Tap, yes.
So let's take. You're gonna get your chair. Anyone heard David? It's a 5 to 7 minute late start. That's what practically. So you can hear an agenda for you. That. To this. So Sue. And you're trying to think on the two. Yeah, Abe, was it?
Yes.
So you have Abe. How do you spell your name?
AARTI.
A
2 H
A
R
R. And let me see.
At least you have the correct spelling of Aarti.
Thank you.
So Ashwini, did you reach David?
I just sent him a message.
So I want to make sure that he has the Zoom details.
Yeah,
I'm having trouble reading.
I'm sending him a text.
Start in a couple seconds. So Suhas is also with Sustainably, just to go. Cat, Abe, Artie, and have any of you ever been to a Sustainable JC event before?
No,
Have you
first
ever-
time. You must
Earlier in the
have
year.
been-
I think February.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was on climate change.
This year, start these in-person small group discussions. And to the extent the first part of the year, we didn't have a presence of, instructors who are a couple of retired professors who are on our led our certificate program in urban sustainability for many years. And we retired. So what we're looking at are different ways to educate. We call monthly small group gathering like this. We do some hands-on side events. Our last campaign was trees and trash. Cleanups, teaching people how to cultivate tree pits, right? Stuff like that.
Deborah, your audio is a little patchy. You cut out for a few seconds every few seconds.
So what we'll try to do is move the microphone then further into the middle of the room.
Yeah.
We'll try that.
So good. So far, so good.
All right, good. So we've discussed, and this is really the trajectory of all these conversations, right? So the relationship of the city, that they are really leading the charge with their planning. Are we ready? Are we not ready? City transportation, what about, the biodiversity in the city? Half of the year, I've covered off on those, I would call them primer conversations. And the first, let's take a deeper cut at the economics. And let's look at our individual market-driven economies. Let's look at our relationship to the business sector, and let's look at our relationship. Right, so we started out with a level setting in September for the fall. Last, in October, we took a deeper cut at our individuals with the various markets, including the barter economy, what we do in our neighborhoods, farm. Individuals who can participate in markets. This month, we're going to take a deep dive into this, right? And then next month, close out the year to government, how it can influence the government. So before we start, because we're going to start in about 30 seconds, water or some food, there's no break. You can certainly take. Has requested that we clear out by 8 p.m. So I would say, ready, we'll start in 2 minutes. Good.
Oh, Suhas, the audio is still patchy. I don't think it's the distance from the mic. I think it's something in the connection. Every few seconds, Deborah's voice cuts out. Can you unplug the mic and replug it?
Sure.
Okay, say something, Suhas.
So Ash, you're going to, I'm speaking now, you're going to start off.
Yep.
If it's the case, that David, for some reason, is not available, you can certainly carry the evening.
I
just
can,
gonna-
absolutely. I will tell you the audio is still patchy at your end, but if you can hear me clearly, I can hear enough at your end to guess what you're saying.
Okay, so.
And we can
why don't
start
we
in
just-
that.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it cuts out after a few seconds. For
Okay,
just a couple of seconds. And so I have to guess a few words, but I can do that.
okay, so we're gonna do a lightning round of introductions. Let's get the show on. Okay, so if you belong to another community organization. Affiliation, it would be good to know, right? And then we kind of want to know you here. You know, you guys shared that you tripped into this earlier. Right, but you know, we have two questions for you. What's something you to moving the needle, we're calling it, in the climate change movement to be doing that you haven't yet done? And then we'll start the program. So if we go around, Sue, how's it?
My name is Suhas.
You speak up because Ash can't hear us.
My name is Suhas. I'm the event coordinator of Sustainably City, and I work as a youth climate revolution action network. There's a youth-led advocacy, and
He's such a soft-spoken man.
Yeah.
And I just want to like say, hey.
a little bit out of control of the moment. Part of climate revolution action. Gen Z led environmental advocacy organization, and which helps dogs and rescuing in dog rescues.
Rest. Okay. Don,
My wife and I have lived here for 38. Retired at this particular point, as far as the things that we do to recycle. In Jersey City, I have a car that sits in a parking lot. Last year I got 20 miles. with an
Okay.
old tire. We've done that for a long period of time. We do a fair amount of recycling. And go through. There's a couple things maybe we could be a little bit better at. So probably reduce, but probably better than most.
okay, so. That kind of stuff. Okay, Kat,
So I've lived in Jersey City for 18 years. When I renewed my, public library card on their site, and the library does a lot of great things. So I'm trying to read print versus, buying books. I think is kind of, in that direction. I'm also downsized. So I was looking for ways to really do it in a very research, and I took my time. I had a luxury because I was retired that I could downsize and take the time to make things or repurpose things or recycle things. In my previous, a couple sustainability task force. So I've always had an interest in that area.
you'd like to be doing that, you haven't yet.
I think just, stepping back and seeing, and I'd like to see how I can get more involved in programs that they're doing, help to get other people involved as well.
Some more community stuff.
Yeah, maybe some more community, for my own and for other people too.
Okay,
It's important.
good.
But my wife and I, so I'm Abe, everyone calls me Abe. My wife and I, we just and we do have a relatively keen interest in sort of this this realm that maybe at a much expansive landscape that we have an interest in it. And I researched and came across this organization. I think it's just a bit bogged down in work, unfortunately, that came first before this. But
I mean, it's something you'd like to do.
yeah, so something we're doing, we're very our just sustainability of energy and being keen on driving an electric car when I need it. I try so we compost, we try to reduce as much as we can. We buy used furniture, we buy used clothes. We do everything within that better. Say, I think I already kind of just circles back to just be a part of the community. That's something that we can't do better. Just want to understand where all like this in the room, what are they doing in Jersey City, and how could we get plugged into that? So that's something I need to do better.
Deb Italiano, I'm the founder. Is the founding advisor organization that was established back in 2011. We incorporated City's community greening. We're an education nonprofit. We do even our quarterly socials or Trojan horses for education. Or some afterwork networking thing. We're going to and is so something that I'm focused on is how we can do better with community outreach and education. Publish a sustainable gift guide to support small businesses here, and at our green drinks and that we had a small business speak. Invited, small business people, if they're interested, to get up in front of the room, introduce themselves, and then we raffle off some products from the local community. We usually have, and that is a learning opportunity, but we have a program element, as I was saying, even at our to teach the crowd something, have them go home, having learned something that they did. So what that takes up a lot of my personal time on a personal level. What more of is consume less. So I'm going to alter, in the coming year, my consumption pattern. And I think I have a pretty simple life compared to how I used to live. I think I can do better.
Well, we moved to Jersey City about a year and a half ago. I work in orthopedic research.
Orthopedic research?
Yeah, like implant joint. And one of the reasons we're here today is like we wanted to get more involved in space and get to participate more in these kinds of initiatives. So one thing that individually we are doing, we've consume like clothes, we shop secondhand. Anything we are like we need to buy, we try to source it from the local neighborhood. We also canceled our Amazon subscription previously.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah,
Right.
that was and it didn't feel like a huge change, affirming in a way. And what I personally is try to address some of those areas where I feel like I am consuming more. That's going to be the project for next year.
Yeah, so just to piggyback. We moved again, year and a half, 3 years ago, somewhere in between there. Our biggest thing right now of things, so deleting an Amazon account, we really only shop for groceries. Everybody's new, but that was from a fundraiser last weekend for Ukraine. So we keep our purchases very limited and we really spend, which is great for the smaller communities because you're going out, spending at the bars, you're spending at the tours, you're getting instead of sending it to some giant corporation. So it feels like we're doing something. And then we were here in Cherries earlier in the year. And that was before the swearing in. Everyone was kind of hopeful. Maybe things will combating climate change, and it just went in the opposite direction.
Right.
Where we're now actively advocating for climate change itself, it seems, you can actually do to move the needle. So at this point, we're just grasping for straws. So we're here to be done. So it seems like we're up against a very large enemy and it doesn't feel like there's much hope there. So hope to see where can we kind of step in and do something. If it means
There's
something
always,
might happen.
oh,
We're here, find those opportunities.
yeah. Darnell, do you want to share about it? She's a community outreach director. She's raking the sand with the rest of us, trying to bring people together.
Yeah. I'm hoping personally, let me back. What do? Right now, I recycle. I make it a point to recycle on weekends. My cardboard, paper and so forth, and then I use the city recycling, where you take all your files and stuff. So if I get a lot of junk mail, especially during the. And so I just pack them up in a box and wait until to do the recycling.
The bulk recycling.
Yeah, at Lincoln Park, and I take a down there.
Right?
Yeah.
You're making sure you're not throwing that stuff in the trash. Is there something that you would like not doing right now?
Well, I listened to these folks right here said they canceled their Amazon. I'm thinking, okay, how can I do that? But I think it's possible if I could probably surprise myself on the weekend. I was going to order an Amazon and something said to me, go into Kohl's and see if you find one.
Okay.
And found the exact iron that I want to replace. I was really shocked. So yeah, support more local businesses.
Okay.
Something that I really want to start doing. Yeah.
Okay. Little gift guy, see if there's anything there. I know you. There, but there are a lot of other interesting local merchants
Mhm.
that, you know, have where, is what I'm calling it, where's to share.
Yeah.
Ashwini, you want to? And then start the program with your presentation?
Absolutely. So I heard about 2/3 of what you folks said, and welcome all. My name's Ashwini Vasishth. I am a professor of sustainability, now retired from Ramapo College. And Deborah and I have been together since we started SJC. And we've been working at various projects and at levels. I have a lot of interests. I take sustainability way more broadly than environmental. I do want to make one comment. The gentleman to the left of Aarti, I don't get your name.
My name, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Randy,
Randy, sorry. So Randy, you were saying you weren't sure if you were doing enough, right? And I just want to be clear about this. It is purely a corporate move to put personal responsibility on sustainability on us. Purely. 80% of the carbon footprint of the planet comes from 20% of the richest people. We are not equally responsible. That you're doing your part is necessary, but it's not going to change the game. Right? You remember climate change, they had that sign system change, not climate change. That's what we're talking about. So it's good that you're doing what you are, but this is not on our shoulders. I just want to say that to be clear. Okay, I can share, Deborah?
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
So David said he was in another meeting. He'll be here in about half an hour. So by the time I finish my presentation, he'll be here.
So you're able to screen share, right?
Yep, I think so.
Good.
Do you need it bigger? Are you okay?
No, I think we're good so far.
All right. So I changed one word in the title. I changed climate change.
Can you enlarge this? Because I can see the slides. A lot of text on them.
Yeah, some of them, yes. Hang on. Let me see what I can do.
You can do.
Good slide.
Yeah. Usually down at the bottom.
Yeah.
This is a cool slides.
Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
top.
About making the screen bigger.
Yeah.
Slide shift.
Click on
Sorry, I went the wrong way. Give me a second.
Full screen.
No, I don't want to go full screen for the same reason that David doesn't. Then I can't see the slide, this next slide coming up. But I'll fix it. Give me a second.
Let's
Can you
just
read that?
continue. It
No,
says
can you read that?
the full screen.
I can go full screen.
we can't see the entire slide.
Yeah, I know.
So if you could speak to it, so let's just do it.
Okay, can you see it now? Is this any better? I don't hear you.
Yeah.
Do you not hear us in the room?
Now I do. I wasn't before.
Okay, we said yes, so let's.
Okay, all right. So I changed one word in the title. I changed climate change to climate action because I don't think we're saying the right thing when we say climate change. Okay, climate is always changing, irrelevant. What we do about it is what we have to talk about. So I'm dividing my talk into two parts. I want to take the flip side. I want consumers to know what corporations, businesses, and firms are already doing to be sustainable and how we as consumers can send them a message that we like what they're doing. So you don't have to read the fine print. You'll get the basic PowerPoint later. Just read the highlighted bold versions. Can you read decarbonizing operations and energy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is a summary of what I think businesses and firms are already doing to move towards sustainability. Two things you have to recognize. One, almost every single multinational corporation in the world now has an office of sustainability. They all have a chief sustainability officer. They're on board. They're not doing it the way we think they should, but they are trying. They've learned one lesson. And that one lesson is cutting waste saves money. And they're all for that. So the business case for sustainability in general has been made quite well to corporations. The problem is most of the businesses in America are small and medium enterprises, less than 150 employees. So moving them is a harder burden. Fortunately, of the multinational corporations, 50% of all Americans who work for a corporation work for multinational. So that's just as background. I just want to set the context. What businesses are doing, I'll give you three things. Decarbonizing, they're already on board with this, in spite of the fact that during President Trump's first term, he pulled us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Our emissions went down because he doesn't control America. He only controls the federal government. So all his moves towards renewable energy and so on are not being taken seriously by other people. Our emissions are going down. People are decarbonizing. Okay, so don't lose hope. The second thing is everybody talks about recycling. When we started to use the phrase reduce, reuse, recycle, I was in Washington, D.C., and I was doing door-to-door canvassing for clean water action. And we would explain it to people. First, reduce. What you can't reduce, reuse. And if you can't reduce or reuse, then recycle. Today, we've forgotten the first two, and we recycle. That's the least worst thing you can do. Before some of you cancel your Amazon subscriptions, I heard. Think about it. There's no solution to this problem. No single solution to this problem. You're driving to Kohl's or you're ordering from Amazon does not have much of a difference in its carbon footprint. It does put a check on how much you consume. If you can order by the click of a button on your screen, you're more likely to buy more things. You have to go to the store, it's more of an effort, and you tend to do it less. So it's a good thing that you're unsubscribing from Amazon, but don't think it's because you're cutting carbon emissions. It's not. So adopting the circular economy model is more complex than that. You may be familiar with the story of stuff. And if you're not, I'll send you a link to a 20-minute video that you should watch, which talks about the basic concept, right? That we take, we make, we use, and we dispose. That's the waste problem. Circular economy tries to close that loop. So the waste of one process becomes the input for some other process. What we dispose of, we minimize. We buy longer lasting stuff, we buy reused stuff, so on and so forth. So companies are transforming their supply chains because they recognize that they are today paying a price for climate change. Okay. So circular economy integration is one thing that almost everybody is doing, right? Well, all the big ones. I won't say everybody. You forget the SMEs. That's a different story. You'd see a trend towards product as service. If you work in a large office, do you notice that your large photocopiers and so on are leased now and not purchased? And the firm leasing them services them. So when the technology changes and a new model comes out, they replace it. They charge you for it, the firm for it, of course, but they sell the product as a service. I used to think this was a scam and a ripoff until I realized that getting rid of a copier printer and buying a new one was way worse than leasing one. Think about it. There's trade-offs all the way. And the third thing that's happening with corporations is what's called the regenerative approach, where sustainability, according to some people, not me, is doing the least harm. regenerative is doing the most good. And what they're saying is that we should be nature positive, not net zero, but nature positive. We should be helping nature. And people are doing various things to help reinforce natural good. But coming back to the point of consumers and what they can do to support sustainability that is already going on, the biggest part of it is the hardest part of it. You have to participate. You have to actively and diligently participate in the new models of business. And by amplifying the signal that these changes are what the market will reward, send a signal to corporations that if you move towards circular economy, if you move towards all the things I mentioned in the previous slide, this is actually something that we like. It's a signal from the market. And we are the only people that can give that signal. This is a hard slide for you to read, so I'm not going to worry about the small text. Just look at the bold text. Actively use take back and trade in programs. Okay, so when I saw the Apple iPhone trade-in program, I thought they were scamming us. I thought they were taking my perfectly usable iPhone, selling it to a third world country, and giving me a little bit of credit for it, and giving me having me pay for a new one. Turns out that that's not strictly the case. Some firms, Apple particularly, actually trade back, take back, and reuse materials because they can unassemble the iPhones. They don't touch them into junk. They take them apart and use the material again. Second thing, choose, repair, refurbish, and secondhand. Look at the possibility of repairing a device before you buy it. Prioritize those that give you the opportunity for repair. Push, this is the hard work, push the company to provide a repair service. Buy refurbished when you need a new item, especially electronics. Choose a certified refurbished product because this directly supports the company's product life extension initiatives. They want their products to last longer so that they can be refurbished and reused again. And follow disposal instructions. E-waste particularly is a problem with this, right? The more you throw things away, and you folks already know this, nothing new here. Now we come to the heart of the matter. As consumers, the one thing you can do, and it's a very hard thing to do, I know, I've tried it. Send a signal to the manufacturer. Given AI and the way in which getting through to a human being is almost impossible, it's very hard to give constructive feedback to corporations. They really don't want to hear from you. They're doing what they're doing. They're quite content with that. But when they do hear from you, it does make a difference. All right? So feedback is the most important thing you can do. If you like something, put in a positive review. If you dislike something, put in a constructive negative review. Tell them what they could have done instead. If you do get in touch with the company, ask for details. Get around the greenwashing thing. What are their emission reports actually saying? What are their water conservation plans? It sends a signal to corporations, which is very hard for us to do, I admit, that they have to back up their marketing with data. You can't just make a claim and hope that it works. And most importantly, provide constructive feedback. Right? If you see something wrong with a product, I know it can take you a couple of hours to do this. Get through to a supervisor at a call center and ask them explicitly to provide this feedback to their board. It may work, it may not work, but if you don't do it, they have no reason to change how they work. And the last part, which David will take up in more detail, I don't know if he's there yet. No, I don't see him. You vote. Every time you buy, you're voting. You're choosing to support one product or the other. That discernment is completely in your hands. Look for things that heighten sustainability. Look for certifications, B Corp certified, transparent climate goals. Look at the website, look at what the corporation is doing before you decide to buy a particular brand. You have to do that work. They're not going to do it for you, which is what makes it so hard to get the right signals to corporations. Second, and probably the worst part of all of this, you have to be prepared to pay the full cost. The reason we get junk is because we go for single bottom line purchases. We look for the cheapest thing that we have to pay the least amount for. And what that means is we're allowing those corporations and the entire supply chain to externalize costs onto nature and onto labor. You get sweatshops, you get mining that is unsustainable. You can mine for for rare earth materials in a way that preserves the environment. You can mine for rare earth materials in a way that protects the labor, but it costs more. All the way along the supply chain, this is true. Buying green, except for organic vegetables, where the price difference is very slight, buying green usually means paying more. You have to decide whether sustainable sourcing, fair labor, high quality, durable materials are worth more to you than not. And this is a decision nobody can make for you except yourself. All right? Because I have no idea what your budgets are. And finally, whatever your thinking is on your wallet, extend that to your investments as well. Whatever your 401k or whatever your pension funds are about, you have choices. ESG is fallen out of favor because most corporations are right-wing conservative. Most corporation CEOs are right-wing conservative. So ESG gets environmental, social governance, which is to say, taking those factors into account when you make a product. David's here. Perfect timing. Hello, David. So when you invest with that in mind. This puts a lot of the burden on you, but there's no quick fix other than this kind of work. So if we're talking about what businesses can do to make sustainability and climate action more likely, at least part of that burden rests on us. And with that, David, if you're there, put your camera on and introduce yourself. And I just went through my presentation. You can take up from here.
Hello, David.
Okay, I don't know if you can see me. I'm on my phone. If somebody could send me a link on my PC, that would be helpful.
I
Sorry
did on Slack.
All right, hold on a second.
Yeah.
This is perfect timing. Does anybody have any questions about what Ashwini just discussed or anything to add personal perspective to that? We'll have a Q&A to something after David presents. We'll have some discussion. But if you want to jump in with a quick comment or a question, you're welcome to do it. Okay, you good there, David?
I
I'm
just
looking-
sent you,
I think I just found it. Hold on. Here we go.
Why don't you introduce yourself, David?
All right, I can see you.
Here you are. Okay,
Okay. Let me
we have half a dozen folks here tonight, so we have a small group. We did our lightning rounds. Where folks, a little bit about what they were doing and something that they would like to do more of. And then Ash presented his piece, which you're aware of. So we don't know anything about you, if you want to introduce your.
Okay. I'm settled in, I think.
Can you hear
you
us?
need to, your phone needs to be shut off.
Yeah, I know.
No, to turn your phone off.
Yep.
Yeah, he knows, he knows.
Well, the phone should be off.
All right, we hear you.
It seems to be off.
Okay.
Your audio is fine.
Yep. All right, great. Sorry about being a little late. I had another meeting and just got out of. I'm Dave Larrabee. I am a retired physicist and I guess I can say I'm a theologian as well. And I've been involved in environmental justice work since about 1973. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while. I live in the Chesapeake Bay. I used to live in the Heights in Jersey City for 10 years or so. And I retired. And so my wife and I have moved out here and enjoying some beauty and some farmland, which is closer to where I grew up, which is Central Jersey when it was all farmland. So leaves that for the introduction. Let me get my slides up here. All right. And I can share my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. So Ash has given you some background information on the business. A lot of work I've done in the past has been around individuals and communities' involvement in a way of making changes to the system. So I thought I'd make a couple comments on individuals, but I need to make some caveats first. Making a difference requires a certain amount of income, and many low-income households are trapped in a system, and they're not going to have much influence, unless by way of vote, maybe by attending rallies and things like that. And so a lot of what I say is not going to be apropos for somebody that is just struggling to put things together. And poverty is an issue in this country as it is internationally, and that's just a fact, something that we have to accept. That we can do something about it. We should be doing something about it. But I'm addressing people that have enough financial resources that they can make some of the required changes to have an impact. Two, a lot of the things that we're talking about are going to require some kind of lifestyle changes. And I'm using the lifestyle in a very broad sense. It's everything you basically do in your life. So it's not just how you spend your money, it's how you spend your time. It's how you interact with other people. To what extent you're involved in political movements or your church or your friends. Okay. And also going to say that as an individual, strictly speaking, as one individual, you're not going to make too much difference on a national level. With again, caveat that, you know, if you're Elon Musk, then you make a difference because you have the money and the power behind you to do it. But if you tap into things that other people are doing as well, that together you'll make a difference, even if you don't know them. The example I like to use, maybe we'll talk a little bit more, is the trend for organic food, which is because it has a large number of people doing it, and so it makes an impact, even though my particular share of that is not going to make a big difference. So there's strength in numbers. So that said, let me give a couple items. So in terms of businesses, they know their customers, or they go out of business, quite simply. And so how you spend your money, you can think of it as voting with your shopping dollars, makes a difference. But there's some caveats. So many sustainable products cost more money. That's why I said, if you're trapped in a food desert, getting organic food or healthy vegetables is much more difficult than if you're in a place where you have access to a supermarket that has those. And even if you try to do that in any given locality, some of the items that things you'd like to buy that are more sustainable may simply not be available. And here you can fall into the thing, well, maybe I can buy them on Amazon or something like that. But then you have the issue is Amazon bringing it to you by public transportation and fossil fuels? Depending on what it is, may or may not be a great option. Plus, there's other issues like if you're living near a warehouse of Amazon or your product goes through that warehouse, the constant stream of trucks and whatnot can lead to asthma in that neighborhood. So there's some issues there too. So one is money and the other is availability. You're going to have to do some research. You're going to have to commit some time to understand the product you're buying. It's easy just to buy something without taking a look or asking the questions about, is it sustainable? Is the product by its nature sustainable or not? And even if it is this particular purchase sustainable? And I'll give you an example, and food's a good example for this. A lot of people notice a difference when you buy organic eggs. And so you'll see all these other labels that are put on legs, like free-range chickens or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, humanely raised, that really have minimal meaning, but they're put on the eggs to attract customers. Maybe I can't afford it, or I'll go with this other one. So you need to do some research. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. It's going to take more time. Not only going to have to understand the products that you're consuming, but you're going to spend more time looking for them. You might have to split your shopping into multiple lists, or you may have to take time to investigate the company that's making these products. Now, it helps if you can share that with friends, if you're a network with people that can swap ideas and experiences. But sustainability is more than just the product. There's a company behind it and the experience of that country. So, for instance, I do a fair number of baking, and so one of the flowers that we use when I can is King Arthur's. They're an employee-owned company, so you can research not just the product but also the company behind the product. And finally, the supply chain. The company may make a great product, and they may run their business as beneficial as they can for their employees. But what about the supply chain, both from the business from the business suppliers, as well as the supply getting from them to you? Another good food example was, for a while, you could get probably still can if you some stores, you would get nice organic hamburger, but it's being flown in from Australia. And so it might be a nice organic product, but is that really sustainable? Is that really what you want to do? And you have to do a little research to find out about that. Or the nice fruit that you get in the summer, that if it's not coming from California, maybe coming from south of the border. So the lifestyle changes in voting with your shopping dollars. You hope people, when they vote in our elections, that they're informed about their choices. So too, if you're going to vote with your shopping dollars, you have to be informed about what you're buying. What would it mean for sustainability for that kind of product, if that product is even sustainable? And I'll add to that what you're going to do with the leftovers. Can you recycle the packaging that it comes in? Can you recycle the cans or the what have you? So voting with your shopping dollars is one way you can make a difference, especially if a bunch of people do it, but it requires changes in how you go about shopping. Another thing you can do is to consider alternative sources for things that are not necessarily sustainable. So again, I'll use food as an example. As one example, Thrive is a company that will satisfy a lot of the organic food you might have a hard time finding around. Misfits Market, and I checked, this is available in Jersey City, is a company that gathers up the produce that is misshapen, perfectly edible, but it's a kind of produce that the stores don't want to sell because we want a perfectly carrot that looks like a good carrot. We don't want to have misshapen vegetables and things, and so they'll get that misfits and deliver it to you, which helps the food chain. Patagonia and others in clothing are also alternative sources of things that are done on a much more sustainable basis. And part of this kind of research, things that help you, are there some certification authorities that will take a look at the company and the products and give you some kind of assurance? So we talked about organic and now regenerative labels that are certified. If it has a little certification field organic on your food, it is in fact certified by an independent party that it's organic. Same thing for clothing. There's a global organic textile standard that a company has to meet to have that label. Around me, you can have a very hard time finding it. If you're getting wood, the Forest Stewardship Council certifies that sustainable practices are used in the development of lumber and whatnot. And finally, B corporations are corporations that have gone through a certification process, not just with their operations, but also with their supply chains, climate goals, and et cetera. Let me say a little bit more about that. So to become a B corporation, and I've put the links on it before, here are some of the areas that the corporation has to demonstrate that they're either working for or they have an adequate score. So they're not simply investor governance, so that they have a purpose and their stakeholders have a share in the governance of the corporation. They've made a commitment to climate action, to the fair work. There's a sort of minimum foundation requirements that they have for the companies. There's areas around the human rights are investigated. Their government affairs and collective action type work, environmental stewardship and circularity, justice, equity, division, and inclusion work. So these are, if you can download their handbook for companies. Last I looked, I think it was like 1,200 pages. So each of these are covered in great detail. There are not too many companies that have done this, but it's growing, and it's something that covers a multitude of products. Okay. Another thing that you can do as an individual, that probably many of us don't do enough of, especially when you're local. So I call it communicate and advocate and vote. So especially if you have a local store and you would like to buy something that they don't carry, that you think is more sustainable or whatnot, tell them. Make a communication to them. Gee, I would really like to buy a sort of clothing that's sustainable or grown with organic cotton, or I'd like to buy food from, like I said, my flour from organic flour or something. I'll tell you a story about this. I was my sister lives up in Lancaster, and there's a really big food market there that services a lot of the Amish community and whatnot. And I'm going through there, and they have a bakery, so they're baking with all kinds of rye flours and spelt and everything. And I noticed that on their shelves they didn't find any rye flour. They said, "Oh, surely we must sell rye flour. We bake with it." Sure enough, they didn't. Well, next time I visited my sister, not only did they have rye flour, but spelt and a bunch of other flours as well. So sometimes bringing it to management's attention is all you need to do. It also helps if a bunch of you go to the store, so they know it's not just one customer they're doing this for. You might find that they'll order it for you, and that might be something that you'd be prepared to do. And for bigger stores, you can write to the marketing department sometimes. It's a good way to get coupons from them, I found. Not necessarily effective. So advocate for so as I said, smaller local stores where they know you as a customer are more likely to respond to you than if you walk into an A&P or a big store. Advocate for core and let the company know recycling is one thing. The right to repair. If we're using too much of the world's resources, think about it this way: if things lasted twice as long, then the overall need to consume them would be roughly half as much. Okay, so needless to say, a lot of corporations design things with an expected life expectancy, and they're not really repairable. I've had a interesting experience here with various kind of LED light bulbs. The local retailer sells one brand, and it was not lasting, whereas GE did better. So one of the things I did is I took it apart, and this is the innards of this. You see that little capacitor there is incorrectly rated. And so that's what's failing. It will last, but it'll be the failure point. So we simply don't buy that brand of LEDs. And again, you have more influence of a local business. So I brought that to attention, but they're part of a chain, etc. The other thing to consider when you're purchasing, we're talking sustainability, is not just what happens when you buy the product. Consider what you're buying over its entire life expectancy. So everyone's heard about fast fashion. Well, fast fashion, but actually fast furniture has been in business for a long time, where they don't want to sell you a bookshelf that'll last for 50 to 100 years. They'll just happy to sell you a bookshelf that'll last from 1 to 5 to 10 years. And especially with today's particle board and MDF and the other cheaper products. Quality hardwood furniture will literally last centuries. I have a desk downstairs that I rescued and refinished. It was a beautiful roll top desk. It was made probably in the early 1900s. Perfectly functional. Sometimes you can find these gems at Restore or other used furniture deals. If you wanted to buy that desk and some of the others today, you would have a hard time finding it because today getting a big width piece of wood, of a hardwood, is difficult and expensive. So consider consider buying something that you not only can repurpose, but if it's older, it might actually be a better quality and have a longer lifetime than it is today. But again, you got to know something about what you're buying. Fast fashion has been in the news quite a bit. You can buy quality clothing that's cared for and maintained for decades. Again, given our society's trend to try to obsolete fashion quickly, that means clothing manufacturers don't have to spend as much emphasis on making a product that lasts a long time. Repair, learn the basics. With YouTube out there and a little bit of hand tools or a needle and thread, it's amazing what you can do and learn. So, and now they have the repair cafes to teach you to do some simple repairs. So those are some of the things you can do in terms of using your purchasing power, your decisions about what to buy that can have a lasting impact. I'll close with a little bit of advice. You can't do it all at once. This is a road you travel, not a destination you reach. So pick something to do that motivates you. If you're a cook, look into the food that you're making. It's a good thing. You'll learn more about the different wheats and whatnot. It'll make you a better cook too. If you like furniture, take a look at learn about furniture and styles and whatnot, and make it better informed choices. Visit the old stores. A great example. I was touring an old estate here on the East End, and there was this lovely antique cabinets that they had, and I asked them. They said, "Oh, don't touch." And I explained to them that I do some refurnishing and whatnot, and do some woodworking. And another fellow was with me, said he did the same thing, and they let us examine some of the drawers and whatnot. We had a great time and learned about it, and in fact was able to share with the tour guide, some things about the wood they didn't know, and we could point out why some things had lasted. This was probably a 200+ year piece. Why it lasted to this day, whereas a modern piece of furniture probably wouldn't. So motivation is key. You've got to be willing to be an informed consumer. And whether that information by you doing the research or talking to people that have done the research, and be engaged in that conversation. And part of that is finding the like-minded individuals and share your experiences with them. And finally, put on my theological hat here. We live in a society in advertising and whatnot, whose aim is to convince you that your desires are needs. That's what they're about. They don't want you just to want something. They want you to think that you absolutely have to have it. And usually that's not true. So not all desires are bad. But if you can learn or go down the path of asking is this a desire I have, or is it actually a need I have? And then operate out of that. Okay. That'll also enable you to learn more about yourself and be a little bit less influenced by all the advertising out there, who is absolutely bent on convincing you that you, quote, need something that you really don't need. In fact, if you think about it, you might not actually, the desire for it might actually be not really based on any kind of true desire or need. So with that, we turn it over for discussion.
Thank you, David. That was great. Thank you both. I think what we want to be able to do, and we purposely kept these groups small. We don't usually go over a dozen people, but the whole point is, if there's a lot of people in the room, then people in the room, there is always a contingent that doesn't say anything. right? So if we can go around, we're gonna do it that way, I think. So Don and Sue, anything to add or questions?
Not really,
Something to add from your perspective?
this is kind of a topic that I think is kind of difficult, to sort of like tackle. I think that the problems that we're in as far as a world and a country is something that's been exacerbated over a long period of time. I remember my dad years ago talking about the fact that when World War II ended, we had a recycling program in place and we completely got away from it. We're basically forced to recycle practically everything during the war, and a lot of things you couldn't even get a hold of during that period of time. And he said, it was a big mistake for us as a country, and he thought we were going to have ramifications down the road. Another thing that he had made a comment about is, and I've seen it on a lot of documentaries, is a lot of people believe that we have reached a population level in the world where it's like we're like literally at the edge of a cliff, and if we don't do something about it, we're going to be in big trouble. Obviously, recycling stuff helps, but at some point in time, I think we have to say, hey, we need to make some other changes, and it's something I virtually never hear anyone ever talk about. So,
What do you mean with people and waste streams related to people?
well, if you look at the population of the world over time, one of the things that you study in like just a basic science class is populations grow in what they call a geometric progression, but the way that we grow food only increases on an arithmetic progression. So in other words, population, let's say in the world, will double every 40 years. And you look at that over time and study it. But like if you have an acre of ground, you can grow X amount of product one particular year. The following year, with technology, you might have an increase of 3%, 4%. You can't keep up with the world's population.
So using food as an example, that's arithmetically
This
not.
was something that I remember my dad making a comment about. We keep a surplus of oil that is approximately a 30-day supply for this particular country. But if you look at how much food that we keep as a surplus, it's only a couple of days. So we're so close to basically running out of food ourselves that it's just frightening. And I know that there's places in the world where literally people just starve to death simply because they don't have the resources, they don't have the ability to grow more, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Can I make two quick comments? So the good news is that the UN population projections anticipate that the world population to peak out in the next century at somewhere maybe between 9.5 and 10 billion. So the world population is in fact stabilizing. One of the best ways to limit population growth in countries, believe it or not, is to educate women and make them part so they have a role to play. The
Best contraception. Education is the best contraception.
Yeah. The other thing I'll make with respect to food, roughly 1/3 of the food that we grow is wasted. And another large fraction of the food goes into feeding animals. So I should do this because I haven't done it in a long time. But many years, maybe a decade ago, I looked into it and found out that the food we currently produced at that time, if there was no waste and you didn't feed it to animals, could support like 12 billion people. So it's not a matter simply of, at the moment, of growing more food. It's part of a matter is what we choose to eat and how we choose to be good stewards of the food that we currently grow. And that's something, it's not just the food that rots in the warehouse. It's the food that isn't sold and not done with. It's also the food that we purchase and end up not using either because it goes bad or because we throw it out or whatever. So
So that was
I do agree with what David is saying. There's a number of organizations that are doing work now on whether by 2050 we'll be able to grow enough food to feed the 10 billion people we'll have by then. That's nonsensical. It's not a quantity issue. It's what we do that makes it unsustainable. That's one thing. I absolutely agree with what David is saying. There's more than enough food today for there to be zero hunger in the world if we accounted for justice and fairness. And we don't. Single bottom line rules us and we go wrong. Exactly.
Thank you. Kat, thoughts?
When I was listening to David's presentation, he mentioned like-minded individuals. It made me think the group here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us, brand new to this group and the organization and what you guys are doing. And I was wondering if David or Ash have ever discovered, like, what is the profile of us? Why are we here? You know, because it's all about building momentum and trying to get people and bringing more like-minded people in. And we're all here doing our little individual things, but we have a desire to do more. And then we have a desire to kind of spread that to a larger community. And so I was just like wondering, what is the makeup
That's the profile.
of us?
We're doing stuff and we have,
Right.
we're leaning in to be part of and helping to build a community of people.
Right.
You know, I
Kat,
guarantee.
can I jump in here for a second?
One moment. So I
Sure.
guarantee that we're all very different people.
Right.
I mean, just look around the room, I would suggest that we live differently. There's differences here, but we're all, to your point, here having this conversation, looking for a way to plug into the current of the essence of what is being discussed here.
Yeah, so we're all like-minded. How do we continue to build the movement of people to bring more in,
Like this,
you know?
more of this.
Yeah. I just want,
Yeah. So I've been doing sustainability in one form or the other since the early 70s. Okay, I was in India at that time. We were doing appropriate technology, how to build without modern building materials. All right, so I've been doing this for a very long time. I'll tell you the reason, Kat, that we don't build better networks is because it's a lot of hard work. It's very hard work. You have to dedicate yourself to building a network and then keep it going. There's no instinct in us in America to build a community. We're individualistically oriented by indoctrination. We don't believe in groups. That becomes socialism. It's anti-capitalistic. So there's a heavy lift to build a community. And if you want to help us with that, welcome to the club.
yeah, right. I will say, Ash, in your presentation, you had a lot of great material and content, and I kept thinking, like, how do you distill that down to a roadmap that, you know, could be helped to spread or just help educate other people? A lot of that was familiar to me only because of my previous job and being part of sustainability groups. But, you know, when you talk about ESG and you talk about B Corps, and it gets a little, if you're not familiar with that, you're kind of like, but all of those terms are really important, regenerative and things like that. But it almost makes me think, gosh, if we could all, like, you know, be a case study sometimes demonstrating how you do what you do and I do what I do. I don't know.
So
I'm just.
Deborah, recruit Kat immediately.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and this is what we've been doing since the start, we basically do what we call innovative demonstration projects. And we've been awarded for those. You know, the city has adopted a couple of them, you know, and you know, people have different cognitive styles, right? Also, right? So sometimes it's, you know, infographics, which we do a lot of. We do a lot of story maps, you know, trying to distill complicated data.
That's great.
Right, And the discussion group is something that the in-person discussion group, we started out with that certificate program I mentioned, in person at the community college. And during the pandemic, we went to Zoom. And Zoom works so well, we started to do most everything via Zoom. Right, so this, getting back to meeting in person in small groups and then potentially larger groups. The only thing that we had continued in person was our quarterly socials, right? So again, there's like different approaches to this. People like longhand, people like shorthand, people
Yeah.
like pictures. People
Mhm.
don't like a lot of conversation or slides with a lot of data. You know, they just give me the headlines. You know, it's,
Right, right.
it's the way that I read, that's all I need. I'll research what I want, you know, and just give me the tips. Where do you shop? Okay, I got it. See you later. So I think it's different for everyone.
Mhm.
And what you need to do is just stay plugged in, you know, and talk to people unlike yourself, different than yourself, you know.
Yeah.
For a while we were talking, you know, the three of us were thinking that we were just talking to ourselves. You know, we didn't know if we were talking to other people to the extent that that was interesting to anyone except ourselves. So, you know, it's a brick by brick approach, and hopefully some conversation that we're having here tonight, you'll have with your own circles, right? Thanksgiving is coming up.
Right.
I know that there's part of this conversation tonight I can have with my I cannot have with my family at Thanksgiving. But there's some of this conversation I can have,
Yeah.
right? So, and I'm going to be with 3 different sets of family, and they're all different from each other.
Are they
And we've
different
had,
generations?
yes,
That's-
multi-generations, but different from each other on the, on the spectrum of politics. All 3 different groups, very different from each other. Some of this conversation could be political. You know, if you think about it, and sustainability, you know, when Ash and I were starting out in the early days, the city of Jersey City, and we have a very good relationship with them now, but they held us as a, you know, a political threat. Right? So some of this, if you think about it, sustainability has to do with tangible things. And what's the biggest tangible thing in a town like this? Food, real estate. And who controls the real estate here? Right? You have developers in the city, right? So when you start talking about the primary, you know, biggest hard asset here, and we start talking sustainability, there's no way of getting around the conversation without talking about infrastructure. And that means that you're criticizing what we do and how we do it. Right? So it immediately becomes a political hot potato. So we've done very well in walking that fine line all these years. At certain points, like I said, we were a little bit of a thorn in the side. But now we're embraced by the city. So that's been a shift. And I think that there's that sensibility out there. People don't all get it, but that 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
Effect, I think that I'm sensing, I don't know how you feel about it, Ash, David. I'm sensing that, and I don't know if it's just the political movement, but I kind of sense the pulse beat that people are pulling together.
Well, I think in their own echo chambers they are.
In their own echo chambers.
Yeah. Kat, I'm gonna I want to respond to one thing that's been said. You bring people in one person at a time.
What did you say?
You bring people in one person at a time.
1% at a
Yes,
time.
one person.
And to do that, you've got to find common ground. And you got to start there. If somebody likes fishing, learn about fishing and then start relating that to the other concerns you have. But if there's common ground, then there's a place where you can develop relationship. And then you'll be much more effective.
One more thing I'll add to that. Remember that at the end of the day, progress is a very slippery word. One of the things that makes us feel hopeless, it seems that we're always revisiting the same ideas. We have to recognize that this is normal. This is not a flaw in the system. Every generation has to learn its lessons all over again. You can try to transmit to your children all the knowledge you have. They'll still make the same mistakes you made and learn for themselves. So stuff like this, it gets recapitulated, right? You have to reinvent. It doesn't look like we're making progress, but that's because we expect progress to be gradual and steady. It doesn't work that way. Study change making. Study it as a topic. How do you make change? That's what I do. And it starts in reinvention and revisiting and reinforcing, and it's a tedious, long haul, not for the faint of heart. One final thing I'll say, when it comes to sustainability, the first thing you have to do is stop looking for answers. There are only trade-offs in sustainability. There are only trade-offs. Less work, better. There is no single answer that will ever end a problem for you in sustainability, ever. Right? If you can't be comfortable with that, then sustainability is not a place you should be playing in.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Yeah.
sandbox.
Yeah.
Abe, what do you have to add?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I know we're running up on time here. Firstly, thank you both for the presentation. I think it's a message that can be reached at all different age levels. So I'd say that I'm thankful for this. One comment about politicizing this, I think it's terrible. I think it just creates division. Definitely not for that. This is a topic that has an impact, generational impacts, and we have to continue to reteach it, as Ash said. So it's very important. Ash, you made a comment around hard work. That was what I wanted to speak to, because we can certainly do things on the surface level, which is like we have a carton, we recycle it. But one thing that I've had to teach myself over the years is take it to a next step, because that I'm just using it as an example as to why we need to work a little bit harder. A carton may have this identifier that is recyclable, but can the town actually recycle it, right? If you take that next step, think through everything that you do on a daily basis, I think you can make an individual impact, and then in turn pass that on to the people that are like-minded. And again, just kind of rounding out the theme here is make an impact, but also have a reach, sort of like arm's length reach, to then in turn allow those folks to then have an arm's length reach to make that impact as well. So just going a little bit further into the surface level, yes, I recycle, but really think about it. Does your town even recycle that product? And I've had to ask myself that similar things around that effect over the years to really understand, am I making an impact, or am I really being wasteful? Because that product might just go to the trash after I recycle it.
Well, taking that even further, what we did, and Ash, you're familiar with this, for years, we were asking them to change the contract so they would actually recycle other numbers.
Yes.
You know, and we used Hoboken
Mhm.
as an example, because they were always ahead of us.
Mhm.
They always had one more number than we did. And if they could do it, why couldn't we do it? So we sort of embarrassed the city a little bit into at least addressing this, and now we're on par with Hoboken. To your point, it's really about collective action. You know, and if you look to your left or to your right, there's always going to be someone there, maybe two people down,
Mhm.
that you can connect with and feel that you're flying with. But, you know, sometimes when you feel like you're not making individual impacts, you know, just know that there are other people in this collective action that you are feeding energy into, right? Do you guys want to close out with some comments?
Yeah, I think we're getting kicked out, so we'll be back. We always kind of come back to our fold here. I don't think I ever leave here any less pessimistic than I currently am, but you know, certainly not more hopeless. So that's a good sign. So we'll keep joining and seeing what we can do as a group together. So appreciate the chat. Thanks.
Something.
Just remember, hope is necessary, but it is not a tactic.
Yeah, there.
You need hope, but it's not gonna get you anywhere.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank
you.
you both
Thank you.
for needing to close
you.
the job, so I'm
Thank
gonna
you. Getting shaped.
send these good people off.
Yes.
Ashwini, David, see you tomorrow evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank
See you tomorrow.
For people.
Thank you. All right. I did-
Take care, folks.
Take care.
Great at
Hail to
work
all. Come back.
tomorrow evening, so you can close out Suhas. Is the Zoom version.